There is a very specific kind of man who benefits from every invisible thing that a woman does, and then he turns to her and has the audacity to say that she's the problem for being exhausted. This is a guy whose laundry is done, his kids have clothes that fit, his appointments are booked, there's groceries in the fridge, the birthday gifts are purchased, the forms are signed, the meals are planned, and the house is functioning. And everyone's life is running because she is constantly thinking 5 steps ahead. So when she just says, I'm overwhelmed, he's like, you do this to yourself. Your standards are too high. You're a perfectionist. You never let me help. No one asked you to do all that. Oh, beautiful. So when the work is done, it's expected. When the work is invisible, it's easy. But when the work overwhelms her, that is a personal flaw, right? How convenient. I want to break down how abusive men actually benefit from women's invisible labor while literally just dismissing all of it. Why calling you a perfectionist is the way that they avoid responsibility, how women's work gets framed as optional until it stops getting done, of course, and why women are exhausted from carrying tasks that men pretend don't matter while they actually depend on them. My name is Lisa Sonni. I'm a certified relationship coach. I'm the author of 5 books, and I specialize in toxic and abusive relationships. On this channel, we expose what abusive, inconsistent, and neglectful men do, and we help women see the patterns so that they can step out of them. Now, this is the really irritating part. I'm talking about neglectful, horrible, abusive, toxic men, and so many men will be like, she hates men. That's not what's happening here. I am exposing men, and if you feel exposed, that sounds like a you problem. Now, for these men, food appears and clean clothes appear and the kids are wearing shoes in the right size and all the things, doctors get called and family plans are all coordinated. The house looks great and the emotional tone of the home has to be managed because women do this constantly, right? All of this work, but people stop seeing it as work because she's doing it behind the scenes and she's usually doing it quietly, which is what men expect, right? They don't ask for help. They don't complain. I recently made a short video on TikTok and I described this scenario where a woman just says, I feel so overwhelmed. I have grocery shopping to do and laundry to do and not a lot of time to do it. And he asks her to help, which is interesting, right? He's not participating. He's helping her with her task, her female task of grocery shopping and laundry. And he offers to help, but he says, give me the list and I'll go grocery shopping. And she says, if you need a list, make a list. And it's always so interesting because the debate then becomes, it'd be easier if she just gave him the list, right? That's what so many men said. Or men were like, who cares about a list? He can just go to the store, get what he gets. And if he doesn't get enough, then she can go back, which women are watching going, oh my God, face first and to the point. And men are sitting here giving themselves these ridiculous pats on the back for creating a solution when they didn't create a solution at all. At the end of the day, people get all tripped up in the specific details of the skit. Every household works differently. Some people want a list, some don't. That's not the point. The man in the skit was the one asking for the list. The woman wasn't instructing him that he had to have one, but she was saying that you need to plan out the meals to know what to buy, and you might want to know what snacks the kids need for school so you know what to buy. It's not magic in how she knows those things. She literally opens cupboards and sees it, or she's the one cooking, or she's the one packing the kids' lunches. Like, it's not rocket science, which is ironic because so many men were like, this isn't hard. If it isn't hard, why is he asking for a list? If it isn't hard, why isn't he helping her more? Why does he even see it as helping to begin with instead of, hey, we have laundry to do and we have groceries to do. How can we tackle this together? But it's interesting because all the men in the comment section and the man in the skit were calling it easy. And that's the trick, right? Tasks coded as feminine are so easy. It's minimized, right? Cleaning is just cleaning. Groceries is just getting groceries. What's the problem? You think getting groceries is hard? Just use an app. Just use all of these ridiculously oversimplified solutions, right? Childcare is just watching the kids. Planning is just making a list. You can't make a list. You're overwhelmed by making a list. That's what all the men said in the comments. But somehow remembering everything and maybe not even needing a list is just how women are, right? But easy work doesn't drain your nervous system, right? It doesn't mean that you have to remember 400 tiny little things all at the same time. If it were easy, why aren't you doing it? The craziest part to me was that it was being framed over and over again as easy work. So why can't she just do it? If it's so easy, why couldn't he help her? But the answer really is because he expects her to do it because she's always been doing it. Now, when you do the work, this guy is going to act like it doesn't count. But when you stop doing the work, do you realize that he notices the consequences? Like again, in that same skit, he was talking about what favorite chips he has. Well, he doesn't even know what chips he likes. Well, the consequences might be he doesn't get the food he likes. He doesn't get the meals he likes. The kids don't know what the hell they're going to have for lunch. They're missing their snacks. You got to bring gummies for the soccer game on Thursday. Does he know that? Is he going to get those? Or is she going to have to go back to the store? Or is he going to have to go back? It's easy for so many people to say, they just need to communicate. What you're missing is that too many men are not interested in this communication that people are offering. An abusive, toxic man, when you ask him for help, he's going to act like you're controlling. He's going to minimize the task and be like, what is your issue? This is so easy, right? But when you're exhausted, he says you're creating your own problems. But that's the setup, and that's kind of the point. He gets the benefit of your labor, and then he denies that the labor has value, and then he blames you for the cost of you carrying it. It's crazy. It's actually very exploitative. And yeah, it's exploitative, which is a manipulation tactic, which is abusive. Now, a lot of men will say, your standards are too high. Let's even not talk about grocery lists, dishes, getting chores done around the house. I can't help you with the dishes because every time I try to help you, you friggin' tell me I did it wrong, so just do it yourself. Women are such perfectionists, right? Your standards are so high, do it yourself. But do you see that? Do you see the deflection? Because yes, sometimes standards are genuinely negotiable. And I do believe that, of course, couples should have a conversation. If you're saying, can you do the dishes? What do you mean by that? And what does he mean by that? But everybody in this needs to be open to the other person's perspective. Yeah, women too, I know. Everybody has to be open to it. But getting the dishes done for a woman might mean wash, dry, and put away, or load the dishwasher and unload the dishwasher. He might think it's just load the dishwasher and he leaves all the bits of food in the sink and the sponge is sitting in nasty soap water. So once a conversation has been had and the standard is either agreed upon or addressed by both parties, now you have to figure it out. My issue is that many men don't want to figure that out. And they're like, who cares if there's food bits in the sink? Well, if she cares, that matters. And if he doesn't care, that doesn't just mean, well, she should do it because he doesn't care. Maybe she doesn't care if you have clean underwear or lunch for work, but she does it, right? Men want bills paid on time, but if she's asking about it, she's so demanding, right? You want your gym bag not to smell like a gym bag, so she washes your clothes. You're happy with that. But as soon as she asks you to do it, that's a problem. So many of the things that women are talking about, and I see this in the comment sections and I see this with my clients, they're literally talking about basic functioning. And then men will frame this as like, you're so obsessed. It's your personal obsession. You're so obsessed with laundry. You're so obsessed with chores. She's not obsessed. She wants to function like an adult. And men are benefiting from their households running like adults live there, but they don't want to actually do the work. And now here's the woman defending the standard instead of asking, why does he think he doesn't have to contribute, right? I always feel like this whole you're a perfectionist thing, which is such a trope that these abusive men lean into, but it actually becomes a way to pathologize competence. Women get called perfectionist when they're literally just holding consequences. You know what happens if a school form doesn't get signed? Your kid misses a trip. You don't have any groceries in the house. Now somebody has to run out, maybe late at night, without a list, frantic. There's food missing that people need in the house for meals, lunches, parties, whatever. If nobody books the appointments, then the doctor's appointments don't get had or dentist appointments don't get had, and those things are necessary, right? You're not always trying to make things perfect, but when he frames it that way, it just makes it this ridiculous thing that you're doing. Sometimes you're trying to prevent the predictable fallout of everyone else not paying attention. And he calls it perfectionism because you're too much is easier than I do too little. And that's really what's happening. They don't want to acknowledge that they're not doing enough because most men actually really overshoot what they're doing, right? I go to work, I do this, I do that. Not to mention they say things like, it's not like I hit you,
Kevin is so much worse. He treats his wife, blah, blah, blah.
And so you should be grateful. You should be grateful for bare minimum Barry as a husband. It's absolutely ridiculous. They benefit from all the work that you're doing. And then they make it seem like you're just crazy for doing all of these things. But imagine when you stop. And many women don't have to imagine, because when you stop, let me guess, he calls you petty. Oh my God, so now you're not going to make my lunch. Oh wow, you're so petty. Is she petty, or is she trying to solve the problem, right? She has too much to do and you don't seem to do enough. So maybe she's adding a little bit to your plate, which actually sounds pretty fair. Now, this next part makes me want to stare into the camera for 30 straight seconds so you understand how irritating this is. When a man says, nobody asked you to do that, and he's benefiting from it, it is crazy making. No one asked, really? Well, who was going to do it, right? Who was going to notice? Who was going to remember, right? Who was going to take our son to the store to get the new shoes? Who was going to RSVP to the wedding? Tell me, who was going to do it? Who was going to plan the dinner? Not you, right? So that's the whole point. If man is going to not even friggin' notice when his prescription runs out, but yet when you do it for him, you're doing too much? No, of course not, because he wants you to do all the things for him because he benefits from it. When he says that crazy ass line that no one asked you to do it, it's a confession that he wasn't paying attention. Now there's a real double bind in here, right? Don't miss this part. If you do the task, it's invisible. And if you don't do it, you're neglectful or petty. And if you keep standards, you're controlling. And if you ask him for help, especially more than once, you're nagging and you're overwhelmed and you're doing it to yourself, right? So if you stop doing all the things, you're selfish. But this double bind keeps women over functioning because we're all trying to figure out like the way to win inside of a system that's designed to depend on you and then resent you for naming it. It is bananas. Women need to step the hell out of this. We need to not be with men that treat us this way. And I think truly the most ironic part, not all men, right? Not all men. Men wanted us to know that. You all say, not all men are like that. Not all men are predators. Not all men treat their wives this way. So women have two choices: be single or find a man who doesn't do these things. And those men exist, unfortunately, for the crappy ones. But here's the thing. Men will use optional to avoid accountability, right? It's optional. You don't have to do all that. Okay, so stop doing it all and then see what happens, right? The house falls apart. The kids miss things. He misses things. He gets irritated. He asks where things are. He complains. He comes home and he's like, where's dinner? Normal things, right? Was it only optional as long as you kept doing it silently? Because I think that's the scam, right? Your labor is optional in theory, right? In theory. But in practice, it's actually required. But this is the whole system around how weaponized incompetence gets practiced. Whenever I make content on the topic of weaponized incompetence, it's always women's standards, right? If he thinks it's okay to leave his dirty underwear on the floor and you don't, then you pick him up. Well, what if she doesn't think that she should be married to a disgusting pig that wants to keep his underwear on the floor? Can she just leave, or is she still being petty? Weaponized incompetence is not a difference in standards, and that's what a lot of men want it to be, because then, once again, they don't have to change. Weaponized incompetence is when you've already had a discussion, the laundry basket is right there, and the truth is we shouldn't have to tell grown adults of any gender to pick up their laundry or participate in their houses and do dishes, or that groceries need to be purchased. But once a couple has some of these conversations and the standards are discussed and out there in the open, and someone is pretending to be bad at a task or deliberately doing a task poorly because they want the other person to do it. Weaponized incompetence doesn't have multiple definitions. It's not just,
but I literally didn't know how to do laundry.
Okay, so what are you doing? What steps are you taking to learn how to do it? Well, you're just better at doing it. Garbage. That's garbage. Women are not just better at it. Pretty sure that men are always the ones saying that they're better at working machines, right? So that would make you better at doing laundry. No, Steve? Weaponized incompetence is a man waiting for instructions and asking where everything is. The man asking for a list and other men saying, I don't understand why she doesn't just give him a list. The list is the hardest part. The actual grocery shopping is relatively easy when you're just walking around ticking a list. So when someone like this does something badly and then you're like, oh my God, just give it to me, I'll do it myself. It's like, see what I'm saying? You prefer to do things your way. She prefers to do things well. And I always find one of the most interesting points here is that men are like, you're just better at it, but also don't tell me how to do it. Is she better at it and you should maybe then learn from her? Or is she not better at it and both of you could equally do this task? If it's so easy, Do it. That's the part I will never understand. If it is so easy, men should just do the things, do it all. Being a woman is so easy. Go ahead. Women only take back over because men's help creates more work sometimes. Weaponized incompetence works because women are literally forced between doing it themselves or managing his poor performance and managing it while he's chirping you for how you're asking him to do it more effectively. And the whole point is that the mental load, the emotional labor, these phrases, that's the part that they don't see. But what's interesting to me is that if I said to a man, okay, go change the oil, he wouldn't be like, what do I need? He would go, okay, we need the jack, we need the funnel, we need the rags, we need the right type of oil, whatever. He would know that there are steps. He would collect the things and then do the task. So he does understand the concept, right? Mow the lawn. Okay, so you need a lawnmower, you need a power source. If that's what you're using, you need the bag, whatever. Men understand these things. We have to stop treating men like they don't understand. They absolutely do. We need to treat them like they're being cruel because that is what they're doing. All of the planning and the checking and the timing and the emotional monitoring, the knowing who needs what, right? That's something that women often carry. They're carrying the whole system. And men just see the outcome, the task that's done. That's it. But all of this is to put you in the role of manager, which I always find ironic because if you're the manager and he's the employee, how is he the leader? Men are not leaders. Okay, so I talk about abusive relationships, right? So what we're talking about here, is it a healthy relationship with some problems? Is it a toxic relationship or is it an abusive one? Well, in a healthy relationship, invisible labor, mental load, overwhelm, it can be discussed, shared, there's a conversation. In an abusive or entitled relationship, the labor is expected and your exhaustion gets used against you. So you tell me what I'm talking about. Is he dismissing when you feel overwhelmed? Does he minimize what you do? Does he call you dramatic or a perfectionist? Does he blame your standards? Does he do things wrong? Does he punish you for asking? Does he use language like, I'm helping you, but yet he acts helpless until you stop expecting anything? Does he benefit from your silence? Because this is actually the mechanism in how women become trapped in roles that they actually didn't agree to. You agreed to a partnership, a marriage, not you doing everything. But here's the problem. Between this guy that you're married to or in a relationship with and the patriarchy and the world and comment sections and social media and movies and news and everything, women start to doubt themselves because they wonder if they are in fact doing too much, if they're too controlling and too picky or too anxious and why do I make things harder? And maybe I should stop expecting help. But the truth is, a good partner would work with you on that. You know that it's an abusive relationship when he's just like, this is your own doing. This is your own fault. And he's benefiting from all of the things that you're doing. If he really didn't care what groceries there are, then he is never allowed to request a dinner. If he doesn't care, then it doesn't matter if you make his lunch. It doesn't matter if he has clean underwear when he needs them. If he doesn't care if his kids are wearing the right shoe size or if they get to go on the class trip because the forms are signed, then that's the life he wants to live. And the truth is, I don't know why any woman would ever want to be married to a man like that. That's why women are choosing bears and being single. That's why women are choosing cats. And that's always the big joke, right? You don't like it, go die alone with your cats. Cats are better than men. Is that what you men keep telling women? It's an interesting conclusion that you guys have come to. And so many women actually are like, yeah, that's actually true. But I will always go back to not all men, because not all men act like this. There are actually tons of men in the comment sections that are commenting, this is so simple. All he has to do is make the list and go to the grocery store. What's the problem, right? Why is he making it harder? Plenty of men see that, which means there are in fact good men out there. And for the crappy men who are probably a dying breed at this point, they're just going to continue to be single, not get married or get divorced and not have children, and they're going to weed themselves out, right? My hope is that it's survival of the fittest. I want women to stop defending their exhaustion and stop even discussing whether or not the work that you do in your home matters. Stop accepting the you do it to yourself response as acceptable. It's not a serious response, right? Do not let men like this pathologize basic functioning, okay? That is crazy. If he benefits from the task being done, then he does not get to dismiss the task as unnecessary the moment you say you're tired. That is a man that does not care about you. And this entire video is not to say that men don't do anything, but what men often say, and I'm quoting men, this is not my opinion, I am quoting the men in the comment sections. They go to work, they do the outside stuff, so why can't she do the inside stuff? If you had a million things to do on the outside and she had like one or two very sporadic things that she had to do on the inside, and most often she was just sitting down, scrolling on her phone, having a little mojito, I feel like men would start to understand, because that's sort of the reverse, right? The typical man sitting inside, hanging out, playing video games, having a beer, watching a game while she's doing everything. Nobody in one relationship should be the person who feels like they're doing everything. The balance of tasks is going to look different in every relationship. So men will always want to make this so hyper specific. We do all the outside stuff. I would happily trade that. Me personally, I would easily take care of all of the outside tasks if he was going to take care of all of the inside tasks. I would take that deal 10 out of 10 times because it advantages the person doing the outside work. Men always want to default to, well, he's paying the bills, when 75% of relationships have a woman working for money outside the home. So in fact, in the vast majority of relationships, both people are working outside the home. Look at the state of things in 2026. A double income is pretty key. This is about caring enough about your spouse to ask, you feel overwhelmed? How can I help you? You feel overwhelmed? Can I help you with any systems? Maybe your wife really is a perfectionist. Maybe she has ADHD. Can you help create systems where everyone feels more balanced? I mean, there's a method literally called the fair play method, which is a phenomenal teaching tool for people who actually care and are actually interested in creating balance. But the men that I'm talking about are not interested in balance. They are men that are benefiting from everything you're doing, and they are not happy to get involved and actually help. They tell women that they're overwhelmed because they care too much or expect too much or make things harder than they need to be. But a lot of women are just overwhelmed because they're carrying all of these invisible systems that everybody depends on. And then they're being told that those systems don't even count. He benefits from the labor. He relies on it. He notices it when it stops. He gets upset with you and calls you names when it stops. So then he calls it unnecessary just because you finally named the cost. It's so unfair. Hit subscribe if you're not already. And if you're trying to untangle some of this overfunctioning and weaponized incompetence and self-doubt, you can join me in my one-on-one coaching, join any of my group coaching programs, or join me inside my online community called She Rises Collective. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.